He had everything: wealth, power, a name that once commanded respect. Yet in the end he had nothing. The walls, they whispered his name over and over, a ghostly murmur seeping from the cracks, as if the house itself conspired against him. The mirrors, cruel and unforgiving, reflected a man he no longer recognized. Hollow eyes, trembling hands, a soul unraveling at the seams. And then, gasping, clutching at the last remnants of his own destruction, he stumbled. The weight of his choices, his secrets, his sins, crushing him like an unseen force. He fought for breath, desperate, clawing at the silence. But the silence had already swallowed him whole. And in that final fleeting moment he understood that every decision, every whisper, every step down the path he once thought was his to control, it had led him here. To this. But by then it was too late. This is the story of Tomas, who was never a man content with the ordinary. He had once lived humbly, a modest trader with dreams that stretched far beyond the dusty markets where he began. But ambition wasn't the right word for what burned inside him. It was an obsession, a gnawing hunger that refused to be sated. He started small, dealing in rare African artifacts, finding ways to manipulate their value. What began as keen business instincts soon became something more calculated. He learned to deceive, to make people believe in the stories he wove around the objects he sold. His profits grew, but so did his appetite. His first true test came in the form of a whispered invitation, an opportunity so dangerous, so thrilling, that it sent a shiver of anticipation through him. A deal with a secretive syndicate. Men who spoke in riddles and shadows. Men who never repeated themselves. A single warning came from an old associate, one who had seen men like Tomas before. The words were quiet but heavy, carrying the weight of something Tomas refused to understand. "There's a line, Tomas. Once you cross it, you don't come back." Tomas smiled. He had heard warnings before, and he had never been one to turn away. The first deal was a success. Then the second. Then the third. Wealth no longer trickled, it poured. He wasn't just making money. He was making himself untouchable. Gold, diamonds, land, he hoarded them all. But what he treasured most was control. Control over markets. Control over people. Control over secrets. And then the whispers began. First they were nothing. The wind perhaps. A trick of the mind. They slipped through his grand estate, curled around the edges of his consciousness. He ignored them. He had bigger things to focus on. Then came the betrayal, the ultimate test of his devotion to power. A friend, a man he had trusted, a man who had trusted him. The diamond mine they had built together was valuable, but Tomas wanted it all. And so, the friend became an obstacle. The deal was done. The friend disappeared. A few nights later, an envelope arrived at his estate. No stamp, no sender. Inside, a single line written in precise, unfamiliar handwriting. "Even the ocean stops at the shore." Tomas laughed, the sound hollow in his own ears. Just another man trying to unsettle him. Another attempt to slow him down. But the whispers grew louder. Success had once made him feel invincible. Now it made him feel watched. Tomas no longer trusted those around him. His wife, his advisors, he dismissed them all. He walked through his mansion alone, the vast corridors stretching like an endless labyrinth. Mirrors became a torment. Reflections moved when they shouldn't. Shadows stretched farther than they had any right to. His own image looked wrong. And then came the meeting. A business partner, a powerful ally. They spoke in hushed tones about an opportunity that could elevate them both beyond imagination. A handshake sealed the promise. But the next morning the man was gone. Vanished. No calls, no sightings. Only his last words remained, lingering in Tomas's mind like a stain. "You can't take it with you." Something was wrong. Something was coming. One night, he returned to his office and froze. His name scratched into the walls, over and over. His hands trembled, but they were clean. The writing was fresh. The final deal should have been his masterpiece, his crowning achievement. Instead, it was his undoing. The ones he had stepped on to rise had returned. They had waited. They had planned. And now they were watching him fall. Tomas tried to run, but the whispers had become voices. They called his name. The lights flickered. The walls seemed to breathe. The air thickened, pressing against him, suffocating him with the weight of everything he had taken. He stumbled into his study, his sanctuary. But something was wrong. The room was different. On his desk sat a note. He recognized the handwriting. It was his own, but he had never written it. You asked for more. Now you have it all. His breath caught. The door behind him swung shut. The lock clicked. The lights went out. The whisper stopped. He had everything. Yet in the end he had nothing. This story was writing to inspire you. For a man like Tomas, ambition was never the problem. Ambition is a fire that drives one forward, a hunger to achieve, to build, to create. It seeks fulfillment, but it knows when to stop, when to appreciate what has been gained. Ambition has limits. It seeks greatness, but it respects balance. Obsession, however, is something else entirely. It is a fire that does not warm but consumes. It is the hunger that devours itself, the need to take and take until nothing remains. Tomas had mistaken his obsession for ambition, had convinced himself that more was always the answer. But obsession has no finish line. It does not grant satisfaction. It only feeds the fear of losing what has been gained. And in the end, Tomas had everything, yet he had nothing. If you found value in this discussion, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories and insights your way. On his desk sat a note.